What's good with the YouTube? You already know Big Flacco from a convict's perspective. And you already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to smash, dash, and slide on through that little bit of energy. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, and do all those things to help support the channel. And so I told you guys every Friday I'll probably drop a war story, man. And so I'm going to drop one with some kind of familiar names, especially if you're from Salinas, man. So this was probably around, I think, 2001, okay? And around that time, Operation Black Widow just hit, and I had been tapped in with Salinas, or before I even was functioning with Salinas, I was already tapped in with some people out there, and one of them was Gabe, Chopper, G Money, someone I considered, was a friend. We were pretty close. I'd go out there to his house, he'd come out to my house, we'd go clubs, we'd do all kinds of stuff together, man. Me, him, and a couple of the other brothers. And so, on one occasion, they wanted to go to San Jose out to the clubs and bars, and so I'm like, all right, cool. Went with the homeboy Chiniquas, and I don't know if my homeboy Chuco went, but maybe. But I went with Gabe. Somehow I was rolling with Gabe that night, and Gabe was actually driving my car, and we went with his sister Sarah, who's Bubba, not Bubba's fucking wife, as well as Sophie, Mateo's sister. So we're at the club and stuff, and we're leaving and stuff, right? And we're just chilling, kicking back. They were cool. You could tell that they were just cool people. They were cool people to hang out with. You know what I'm saying? And we were just having a good time. So we decided to go to my house. My house, I had a big old house back then. It was like the next Friday where you had those three homeboys that lived in the house and shit, Joker, Lil Joker. I had two other of my homeboys from my hood I lived with. And it was fucking just a huge house. And so we get there. Some other homeboys are there and stuff, right? And one of them's from some other hood. And so something had happened to like a family member of mine where he ended up getting jumped. You know what I'm saying? I kicked some stuff off. That's another story in itself. I kicked some stuff off with some cat named some Puerto Rican cat. His name was Jacob, and then some other black dude named I think Mike Fenoy or something like that. I forgot, from Milpitas, right? At a motel party about 2 weeks before or a month before, because I got there and shit. And when I got there, these dudes, they came in, they were high side like they were from Frisco and this and that, and they weren't from Frisco, but that's where they hung out. And they made a comment about Milpitas and shit, right? And I'm thinking in my head, who the fuck are these dudes, right? And they had their hats on like this and shit, you know what I mean? They're talking with, all that swag, right? And my cousin said something to him, was laughing. And he goes, "What's wrong with your hat?" And the dude goes, "What's wrong with it?" Like that. So I just jump up and I hit the black dude first. Bah! I hit him. And I dropped him. And so we're in this thing. There's hella people from the town where they'll all tell you about this shit. So I look and I see his homeboy, the Puerto Rican dude, and so I just lit him up. Bah, bah, bah. And it was just so easy. Like, he just didn't even try to make a move. And so I put him in a headlock. And I start going like this, and they start jumping on the other dude. And so I grab my headlock, I start going back. There's a whole thing of beers, right? So I grab a beer bottle, and I just start beating him with a beer bottle. Bah, bah. And just fucking, everybody laughed about this part because I went like this with him, and I gently put the beer bottle down like that. And I just, like that, and he just fucking dropped, knocked out. The other dude they were beating on, we did like about $2,000 in damage to my cousin's sister's motel room. It was her birthday and shit. And, dude gets up and shit. He didn't even know where he was at. He asked me like who I was, where was he at and shit. The dude I had knocked out. And so I guess they run into my cousin and they end up jumping him. And this dude used to kick it with those dudes. And so I'm on the phone and shit. I think we're on the stairways and shit. And the dude tries to get demanding in my house. Like, let me talk like that. So on instinct, man, I just headbutt this cat like this. I just headbutt him on this instinct. Bah! And he just dropped right there on the spot. And then I'm just beating on this dude, and he's trying to go into my homeboy's room. My homeboy's in there with his lady and his two younger kids. Man, they're from being men now, but they were little guys. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just fucking dragging the dude out the fucking room and shit. And I just proceeded to stomp this dude out like bad. Like it's pretty bad. That by the time he came through, he had blood like this scattered all from here. And then Gabe was just like didn't know what to do, right? And then my homeboy Chino said, "Don't touch the walls like this and shit," because the dude's just like, "I want to get out of here," and he's just like all bloodied out, and he just left and shit. I just went back to drinking and shit, and I remember the females when they were there, they were fucking shocked, like, what the fuck just happened and shit, because I just literally like pulverized this dude like within seconds and shit. And I just told him, hey, like, this had been some pedo from years before, you know what I'm saying? And which the interesting thing is every time they would talk about me and hear my name would come up, what's her name would always say that I was a fucking beast, a sap. She'd tell everybody that motherfucker's a fool. because he was there when I straight lit this cat up. It was that bad. Like I stomped him out like basically like you ever seen that show Menace to Society? I just proceeded just to give this dude, and I'm wearing nice clothes at the time. I look more like, at the time when I'd go clubbing, I didn't look like no thug. I looked like a regular fucking dude. People would probably underestimate sometimes, even though I'm tall. They'd be like, "Who's this weirdo?" or whatever. And I thought I would light people up sometimes. And this cat, in particular, I lit him up pretty bad, man. But it all stemmed from an issue that happened just weeks before at a motel party and shit. That motel party was funny because I dropped the first dude, so the next thing you know, they start jumping on him after I drop him, and I beat the shit out of this other cat. And see, the thing is when things like that would happen, I just would be like, it was natural to me. Like I remember afterwards, I took off and I was with one of the females that was there, and we go to the pines and shit. Half those females did not want to be around me at that time on that incident because they were tripping. Like they were tripping off it. Like, man, I'm thinking like this nothing. He disrespected my cousin, and we did what we had to do. And it was like $2,500 in damage that was caused on that, man. And that issue translated to another issue that ended up happening weeks later and shit over the same incident. You know what I'm saying? So I remember we ran into the cat one time, me and the other homeboy, Chino, and Chino's all slumped back then. He had like a star right here, fucking all, you know what I mean? And, it looks intimidating. You know what I'm saying? That's my boy right there. So we're at we run into him with this fucking lady, man. The dude must have shit his fucking pants. I'm like, yeah, that's the dude I knocked out, bro, fucking senseless. And he just froze up and shit, like, But that's the kind of shit that would happen sometimes, man. I mean, that was just one incident that, cause I remember fucking Gabe's face when that happened. He was like, you know what I mean? Like shocked, and he didn't know what to do. And then fucking, at least Cheeto was smart. He said, "Don't touch nothing," because he thought it was pretty bad, man. There was blood everywhere and shit, man. And I remember Chino afterwards said, "Man, anytime we got to go, someone bring some people that get down like you, bro. We're good." I said, "I got this, bro. We got this shit, man." But we didn't really always have to. That had nothing to do with no regiment business or nothing. It was personal shit, but there's people that were affiliated on all levels at the time. This was like 2001. You know what I mean? And it was and I wasn't even trying to. I forgot who was there. I wasn't even. See, I didn't even really know nothing about Mateo's sister. I just knew that was Gabe's sister, the other one, and Sophie. I didn't know anything about them. But then afterwards, I started like seeing how they were talking. I started hearing their names. I'm like, oh shit, these girls are deeply. They're deeply connected with the fellas. You know what I mean? Anyways, that was just one I thought interesting story because a lot of you guys probably know them and probably can get clarification and confirm the story and stuff, especially if you're from Salinas. Because I know every time I'd go see certain homeboys out that way, that's the first thing that they would say when they heard my name. Oh, Flaco, he's a beast right there. And then the homeboys would look like, they'd be like, is he? Like trying to size me up and shit. And I'd be laughing my ass off and shit. But that's how it goes sometimes, man. More often than not, though, even when we're out there taking care of business, that was supposed to be the last resort, was to take violence or to get active or to, what I'm saying? If we could diffuse the situation, man, we would, man. I remember fucking being out there Cinco de Mayo and homeboy fucking throwing fucking ones in the air and shit and going to the to the bar at fucking Emma's, and I think he ordered, what was it, 100 shots of Patron and 100 Coronas. And I think that maybe there was like 5 of us there. You know what I mean? That's just how it was back then, man. Having good times and stuff, there was a few other incidents that happened that I wasn't involved in. At the club, a couple times people got their chain took and shit that were fucking known rappers out there. And you know what I mean? Next thing you know, we had to get at the homie to make sure they gave it back. And you know what I'm saying? There was always that little battle that happened that you had those that were kind of rocking with us that because they were rocking with us, they wouldn't take no shit from nobody. But at the same time, sometimes they cross lines and shit. And if it wasn't for like, that they rocked with me and the homeboy, because these dudes would be associated too. So that's what used to happen. We used to go to like Club Platinum, San Jose Bar and Grill, and then the homeboy owned a club at the time. I don't know if you guys remember Club Shine out there in San Jose. So we go to these places and shit would happen sometimes, man. And You know, it seemed like everybody that I was rocking with, like we were like the how you say it, man? We had a lot of pull for some reason because we've been out there. We were out there in the trenches and shit. So there'd be a lot of bros that weren't functioning, but didn't have any fucking say so out there in the streets and shit. And then shit would happen between sometimes a homeboy, I mean, or this dude was affiliated, but you know, we'd be like, well, why pull a bitch move, man? You were talking shit. He socked you up and took your chain. Oh well, that's on you. Give him the chain back, homie. You know, but some people want to push the issue of that red on red. Well, wouldn't be no red on red if you didn't think you wasn't about that. You know what I mean? And so you don't know how many times out there there'd be issues like that that were going on, man. That you know, where we had to sit there and really, man, like to be honest with you, a lot of us used to fucking sit there and laugh at it, man. Like, man, who the fuck's these weenies? Why is he fucking reporting this and crying and shit like that? He should have just handled his business and shit, not get his shit took, or should have just took a punch and shit. You know, kind of goes back to that situation that happened with you know, Big Mister and what's his name, Frank Gucci. You know, I've done time with fucking homeboy Frank Gucci, and like I told people from the get go, I don't know him that well, but we did time, and he was cool, and he's the same person that you see on YouTube. He was the same person when he was out there in the yard, man. You know what I'm saying? We were in 6 yard back in 2002, I think it was, and he was the same get down, same stilo, everything. That's just who he is. So he's never been able. He's never faked the funk, and I will say that about Frank Gucci. That's who he is. You know what I mean? I don't know what his standings are, if he's going to get backs or clear his name. It's not my business, but I will say this: he's not fake. You know, he's the same person you see on YouTube. That's who the fuck he is, and I'm gonna keep it 100 on that. Anyways, figured I'd tell a little war story with some familiar names that you guys know, and I thought it was kind of a shit. That's a long time ago, man. That's like 20 years ago. You know what I mean? I was a fucking kid back then, you know, and I got some even crazier war stories I'll tell in the future, but I'm trying to get to ones that are more like, you know, kind of more can either be cross checked or looked into. You know what I mean? Kind of confirmed as well. You know what I mean? But there's some stories out there, some shit we did that, like, man, I don't know how we even pulled out of it, or I don't even know how we survived. You know, sometimes that adrenaline instinct when you just act without thinking is sometimes the best security measure you can have, man, is just not hesitate. I've always said that if you give anybody any time to think or regroup, you're kind of fucking yourself up, especially if you're in a disadvantage. That's why I've always been known to take off first, because I've always believed this. If you take off first, you're about 80% chance you're going to win that fight every time. You know what I'm saying? Because the streets, nobody's over there like, oh, let's square up and do that. You do that with your homeboys when you have a dispute. When it's funk, it's about trying to get that motherfucker. So there ain't no rules. And that's just how it goes. It's about you getting the next man. Anyways, it's your boy Flacco. Another story. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gone.